This is a piece of wood that nobody alive can read. The people of Easter Island carved rows of small figures into tablets like it. Writing they may have invented from nothing, a thing humanity has done perhaps 5 times in all its history. Fewer than 30 pieces survive, and the reason no one can read them is not a puzzle, it is a tragedy. The last story ended on a handful of scratched signs nobody could read. This one begins with a whole language's worth. On the 2nd of January 1864, a French missionary named Eugène Hérault landed on a speck of volcanic land in the far Pacific. In the islanders' houses, he saw wooden tablets and staffs covered in several sorts of hieroglyphic characters. He wrote it up months later, the first written record that this script existed. Now the terrible arithmetic. The raids that destroyed this script's readers had already happened years before Hérault wrote a word about the island. The outside world learned Rapa Nui had writing only after it had already lost the people who could read it. So the question is not just what the tablets say, it is whether anyone can ever know. The honest answer is stranger than a lost key. Start with the object. The islanders called the tablets Kohau Rongorongo, lines for chanting out. The wood carries rows of figures about a centimeter tall. People, birds, fish, plants, pure geometry, cut, tradition holds, with obsidian flakes or shark teeth. Look at one straight on. Every second line is upside down. That is not damage. To read Rongorongo, you start at the bottom left corner, read left to right, then rotate the whole tablet 180 degrees to read the next line. Almost nothing else on earth is written this way. The reader's hands are part of the script. Even the sign count is contested. Thomas Barthel's 1958 catalogue assigned roughly 600 codes. Barthel himself argued the true inventory, once variant forms are merged, is closer to 120. When a script is undeciphered, you cannot even count its letters. Here is why this wood matters to the whole human story. As far as anyone can tell, writing has been created from nothing only a handful of times. Sumer, Egypt, China, Mesoamerica. If Rongorongo was invented independently, the 5th name on that list is a small volcanic island, alone in the far Pacific. In 2024, the question got physical evidence. Researchers radiocarbon dated the wood of 4 tablets kept in Rome. 3 came from trees felled in the 18th or 19th century. The 4th returned a felling date between 1493 and 1509, roughly 2 centuries before the first Europeans reached the island in 1722. Hold the caveat. It is real. That oldest wood appears to be driftwood, from a tree that never grew on Rapa Nui. The date belongs to the wood, not necessarily to the carving. The study supports an indigenous invention rather than an imitation of European writing. It does not prove it. Here is what survives. Fewer than 30 wooden objects, 23 by one count, 26 or 27 by others, and only about half are fit for serious study. Together they hold around 15,000 legible glyphs. Not one piece remains on the island that made it. Writing systems usually die slowly, fading over centuries. Rongorongo did not fade. It was severed inside a single generation, and the severing has a date. At the start of the 1860s, perhaps 3,000 or 4,000 people lived on Rapa Nui. Over a few months, spanning 1862 and 1863, Peruvian slave ships raided the island repeatedly, taking between 1,000 and 2,000 people, at minimum a quarter of everyone alive, into forced labor, most bound for Peru's guano mines. By one estimate, 9 of every 10 taken were dead within a year or two. International pressure forced Peru to send survivors home. The ship that carried them also carried smallpox. Of the 1,000 or more taken, those who reached Rapa Nui alive numbered between a dozen and about 3 dozen, depending on the source. And the disease they brought spread through everyone left behind. By 1877, one count put the island's entire population at 110. This is not deep antiquity. It happened within 4 lifetimes of tonight, to a people whose descendants are alive now. Rapa Nui tradition, told to missionaries in the years that followed, holds that the losses included the paramount chief, his heir, and virtually the entire class of Tangata Rongorongo, the trained scribes and reciters. Decades later, one islander said he had begun learning to carve the glyphs, but that nobody was left who could read them. The Peruvians, he said, had brought about the deaths of all the wise men. That is oral tradition, recorded second-hand. Hold it with that caution. It is also the only testimony we have from inside this script. In one generation, a written language became carved wood. The tablets themselves were dying. As Christianity took hold, tradition says some families burned theirs as pagan things. Of those that survive, some are weathered nearly smooth, and some carry the marks of fire. Then, in 1868, a carved tablet reached Bishop Joson in Tahiti as a gift. He understood what he was holding and sent an urgent instruction back to the island's missionary. Collect every tablet that remains. Father Roussel recovered only a handful. Joson went further. He found a Rapa Nui man in Tahiti, Metero Tawa Yure, said to know the old chants, set the tablets before him, and wrote down everything he sang. Here, at last, was what the script needed: a reader and a listener. Except it was not. Metero's readings wander and contradict themselves. At times, he seems to chant a line backwards. His words mix Rapa Nui with Tahitian. Scholars still mine the Joson list, none trust it as a guide. History's one chance to hear Rongorongo read aloud had come just those few years too late. And yet one tablet holds 3 lines that scholars believe they almost understand. Almost. The gap inside that word is the rest of this story. Here is why Rongorongo has never simply been cracked. Every famous decipherment leaned on a crutch. Hieroglyphs fell to the Rosetta Stone, the same text in a script people could already read. Rongorongo has nothing. No bilingual text, no parallel passage, no picture to check a guess against. And today's Rapa Nui is threaded with Tahitian, so even the language the tablets record is partly a reconstruction. 15,000 glyphs, and no lever to open them. Against all that stands one result almost everyone accepts. On the tablet called Mamari, the linguist Jacques Guy analyzed 3 lines that appear to work as a lunar calendar, tracking the old Rapa Nui month of 28 to 30 nights. One recurring glyph may even picture the full moon as island tradition did. An old woman lighting an earth oven in the sky. Notice what that is. Scholars can say what those lines are doing. Tracking the moon, applying a rule. They cannot say one word the lines use to do it. Not a glyph of that calendar can be pronounced, a function without a voice. After 160 years, that is the ceiling. The deeper question is what Rongorongo even is. Theory 1, true writing, glyphs encoding a language the way this sentence does. If so, the key died with the Tangata Rongorongo, and decipherment waits on evidence we may never have enough of. Theory 2, argued by Russian researchers in 1957 and taken seriously by most specialists since. Rongorongo is not full writing, but a memory system. Prompts, not prose. Each glyph a handhold for a chant the reciter already knew. The way the Dongba script of the Naxi people still works today. If that is true, Rongorongo cannot be deciphered even in principle. Not because the key is lost, because most of the text was never on the wood. It was in the reciters. Every one of these is an educated guess. None of them is an answer. This is what makes Rongorongo different from every other undeciphered script. A decipherment is proven by confirmation, and Rongorongo's final check, a fluent reader, has been gone since the 1860s. Even a decipherment that happened to be right could no longer be proven right. The loneliest possibility is not that the tablets will never be read. It is that a line of them may already have been read correctly, and no one alive can ever say so. Humanity has created writing from nothing perhaps 5 times. 4 of those we can read. The 5th is fewer than 30 pieces of carved wood holding somewhere between a literature and a memory. Silent, not because its people failed, but because of what was done to them. So the tablets wait under glass. An ocean from home, saying possibly everything and provably nothing. Rongorongo is what it looks like when catastrophe takes a people's memory and leaves their writing behind. But catastrophe is not always a thief. Once in a great while, it is a curator. 3,600 years ago in the Aegean, a volcano buried a Bronze Age city so completely that its streets still stand. Houses 3 stories tall, painted walls bright with color, sealed under the ash. Archaeologists have dug for 60 years and never found a single body. A whole world, perfectly kept, and its people missing. The island was called Thera, and that story is next. And if tonight's mystery held you, a like helps more people find the deep past, and subscribing brings you a new story every week. I'll see you down there.